Happy Wednesday, everyone. Great to be here. We're really excited to chat about not just what we do, but I love that intro, Reggie, of where are things going from an industry perspective? How can we be pushing the limits to expand the experience for our members? And I'm excited to have Dana and Gabe on here as well, because we all have different perspectives coming into the industry. Mine is really from a technology side. Gabe, I'll let you do a quick intro, and Dana as well. But to start us off, my name's Peter Hodgin, and I oversee our partnerships and new development here at JUNO. And I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves real quick, and then we'll jump into the fun stuff.
Dana, go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Good morning, everybody. As people come in here, I'm excited to share this time with you. I am a lifelong learner and a longtime events and trade show and meetings and extensions of that are what content and learning, right? So that's really my take on what we're doing here at JUNO, which Peter is going to tell you about. It's a holistic solution that I think we're going to get people excited about today. Go ahead, Gabe.
Hi, everyone. Morning. Gabe Casey, VP of Product for JUNO. Prior, I think it's just in this setting, I always like to mention, prior to my stint here at JUNO, I was the Chief Technology Officer at the American College of Emergency Physicians. So got a little bit of association experience under my belt. I know of what Reggie speaks when he talks about all the money that we spend on back-end systems, and sometimes at the expense of focusing on that front-end experience. I do think a lot of associations are coming around to understanding what the members expect, what they get other places, and they expect the same from our association. I know we all feel that. And learning that we're going to talk about today is no exception to that. I've been through the LMS journey several times with ASAP. And I think it's a common experience of these kind of somewhat old feeling systems that are complicated and do all the things. Reggie was talking about a lot of focus on certification, on learning pathways and all that stuff. And yet, it's not how people learn anymore. That feels like sort of an older model about delivering content, delivering education. So we're going to talk about how JUNO's approaching it, which is we think a newer take on it. That's more suited to the way that people learn today, with on-the-go micro-learning, virtual mentorships, and Peter's going to talk us through that.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you, Gabe and Dana. I appreciate it. Dana, I appreciate the shout out. Who's here from the West Coast? My West Coasters. It's a little earlier for us, but I love that we got some people in from all over the country. And I'm going to kick us off with a little background on JUNO for those of you that don't know who we are. We are a organization that really is here to help you not just with cool technology, but ultimately to facilitate, like Gabe said, those better experiences for your members. We're going to talk a little bit more holistic this morning. And JUNO, we live by what we call our 7 E's, they're values that we live by. And so with every meeting, we kick off by reading one of those E's, because we think it's important to have a vision and a mission behind why you're doing what you're doing. So I'm going to kick us off by reading an E this morning, and I'm going to read our E that is engaged. And I think it's great for our session this morning. And this is what we say at JUNO: when we don't stop thinking or ideating. We're going to talk about how we do that this morning. We don't accept what is. We know what got you here won't get you there, and we have no interest in staying here. We think outside the box, and we make everything we touch better every single day. Can I get an amen? All right. So that's our E for the day. And, as we dive into this learning opportunity, I love that someone mentioned that idea of duck syndrome earlier. When we start to think about what does it look like for our members to engage in their learning experience, what does that look like in 2022, 23, 24, and beyond? So I'm going to jump in and show you some stuff, but we want this to be experiential as well. So if you have questions, if you have thoughts that you want to share, please drop them in the chat. We're going to get some time to do Q&A at the end. But as we're going, if you have ideas or thoughts, please throw them in there. So with that, let's jump in. And one thing I want to start with is Gabe mentioned the new learning experience. Let's kind of take a step backwards. Learning management systems have been around for a really long time. I'm actually representing San Diego State. I did my degree at San Diego State in person, but I also had a couple virtual courses that I took back in the day, man, 15, 20 years ago, that was kind of new edge, right? Oh my gosh, like online learning, that's such a new thing. But we've been doing it for so long that sometimes it just feels outdated, right? The way that we do it, the way that it looks, the way that it feels a little outdated. And so when we thought about how we create a learning experience here at JUNO, we wanted to look at not just being an LMS, right? But how do we create that full experience learning situation? So let me share my screen here. And a couple of things we're going to dive into today. I'm going to show you one of our demo sites and walk through some high-level features. I'm also going to show you one of our live sites, which y'all should be really excited about, which is the ReadyMe experience. It's an ASAE learning experience platform that we built for ASAE members. So we'll dive into that a little bit. But when we start to think about learning, learning is not just taking a course, right? That's an aspect of it, but being able to create a full experience, right? And so what we look at JUNO is everything from your events, whether those are in-person, virtual, or hybrid, to year-round community, how your members interact and engage with each other, all the way to learning and courses. All of those things are a part of the learning experience. They're not mutually exclusive. So when I go to an event, I'm learning things. When I leave that event, how are you as an organization continuing that learning experience for your members? If I'm in a chat or I'm in a forum and I'm creating opportunities throughout the year where I can ask questions and learn and grow, just like we're doing today. This is a live learning experience, right? We can create those experiences for you through our platform. But then when this is done, how do you continue that learning experience, right? So that's the whole point of JUNO, is that it's a holistic view for not only a 365 type of learning, but also for how people learn. Everybody learns differently. Some people learn by reading, listening, watching, writing, answering questions. There's all sorts of different aspects to that. So let's just keep that in mind as we think about the learning process, and keep that in mind as you're thinking about redeveloping maybe your learning process. That it doesn't always just have to be, okay, I hop in and I take a course and I get a credential and I'm done, right? What other aspects of learning can I create for them? So before I dive in, Gabe or Dana, anything you want to add to that before we kind of jump into the nitty gritty?
No, it's exciting, Peter, to put in everybody's mind how they're thinking about changes to their own learning process, and then of course the technology that enables that.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things to give you some backdrop if you haven't experienced JUNO before. A couple of the key things that we focus on are user experience. Going back to that duck syndrome that someone mentioned earlier, that front-facing user experience is so important. Creating a personal experience within that is so important. And so one of the things that we do is we want to get to know your members as quickly as we can, so that we can create that user experience. So one of the ways we do that is through either your AMS or system. If you have information and intel on your members, where they're located, what their interests are, hobbies, all that kind of stuff, that's great. We want to know that information. If we don't have that information within their profile, we can start to ask them some of those questions. So you can customize, hey, why are you here for this event? Or what do you want to learn? Or what are you good at? And as we start to do that, and you can ask these questions all throughout the platform. So anytime you want to ask a question, think about Netflix, right? You just watch something. Did you like this? Did you not like this? What are your favorite movies? We kind of use that model to get feedback from the members, so that way we can create a more personal experience when they come into an environment and say, hey, let's jump into, for example, our learning portion of the platform. We can already start to recommend some content to that user based on what they've said about themselves. We also then take into account what they actually go do. So again, that goes back to what I was talking about, the events, the experiences, they show up to a conference, the things that they do at the conference, the sessions that they attend, the people they interact with, all of that's happening more than likely on their mobile device through our JUNO app. But we're gathering intel on them, so that when they go home, we can say, hey, Gabe, we know that you went to these 5 sessions, you met these 10 people. here's 3 courses that we would recommend to you, right? Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to look at a more holistic picture versus, well, I've got my event software over here, I've got my LMS over here, nothing's talking to each other. I've got my community platform over here, everything's disconnected. We want to bring all that data together to create a more personal experience. So a couple things we do. One, you have the ability within our platform to host all of your on-demand content. Part of learning is just, hey, what do you want to learn, right? So we're going to recommend some content to you. So maybe there's some sessions or articles or case studies or things that you want them to read. Again, this is a demo site, so we've got some content in here. You can have access to this. This is some fun JUNO content that Dana and her team have put together. But then they can come in and say, hey, I'm just looking for some on-demand stuff. I want to read, I want to explore, I want to journey, I want to learn on my own terms. Great. You can do that. You can come in, you can search for things, you can create different filters for them so they can find what they're looking for. Again, we've already talked about the recommendation aspect, to use AI to help push content to the top for them. But then they can jump into these and say, oh, I'm really interested in, industry leaders or case studies. Maybe you have some preemptive stuff that you want to do. Great. I want to jump in and I want to read a case study. They can come in, they can do that on their own. They can read about it. Maybe there's a download or something that, they want to access. Again, on demand, quick, bite-sized learning, right? But again, that's not everything. You might also at the end of this say, hey, great, you've read this case study, right? We recommend that you attend this learning environment session. And we do this a lot with our partners, where we create these multi-connected learning experiences where they may, hey, before this session, go read these 3 things, go do these 3 things. And then they come over and they join maybe a live session. So, hey, here's our ASAE demo day that's live, right? That's happening right now. We're going to jump in, we're going to learn, and you can do that within our platform. So I just want to show that real quick, because I know it's not necessarily LMS related, but I think it's so important because in our world it is. So I can jump in and maybe you have a live learning session where people can come in just like we're doing right now and join the session. They can chat, they can turn their cameras on, they can experience each other, ask questions, and all of that happens natively within our system. And so I know that, Gabe, this was a big thing when you came over from ASAP, that you were like, hey, this is a big aspect of what we want to do. Can you take 1 minute? I know we're short on time, but 1 minute and just share a little bit on, from your experience, how that connected learning piece from the live and the on-demand portion, kind of that value add, that importance to that from your perspective is coming from the association world.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just even, and doing this at JUNO and doing this with clients. So like with, a lot of times, and again, one of the things I always think of when we talk about learning is there's a great quote that I read. I'm trying to find it so I can quote it directly, but adult learning now in a lot of ways still is concepts from the 50s and 60s delivered using technologies from the 90s and the 2000s. And that's really, what JUNO is trying to change. And so that was, you think about it, learning was like, okay, you go in a classroom and you sit and you just listen to it and you absorb all the information. And then you're supposed to have walked out and know something about that, right? But that's not, like, a lot of times if I'm getting something for the first time fresh, I don't understand it, I don't have any context to put it into. And so that ability, like you were talking about, to put in that, kind of do more of like a flipped classroom type of thing, that's one of the examples of that, where I've got, before I go to a live event, I'm going to do some other reading, some on-demand learning, so that when I come to the live event, I've got that context. And then I think the really important thing, right, I've found it so true in my own lifelong learning experience, is when you have some context, I learn something and then I get a place to apply that later on, or I get another place to kind of reinforce. And I know what you're going to get to. This part I'm even more excited, not just the connection between on demand and live content, but that connection between something I learned, whether it's on demand or live, and then being able to interact with people and really kind of synthesize that information. To me, that's been so critical. And that's really where we're going. So I'm kind of, maybe I'm, setting you up hopefully for that as the next thing. But I think that's again, it's, so it's about kind of hitting for not just the way that people learn, but giving them a live event and on demand. And then, like, we're going to talk about that human interaction part. And that's what I find in my own experience. And it's, it's proven out there with studies. That's when you actually retain something. That's when you actually know something instead of just, oh, I heard that. That's when you actually understand and know.
Yep. 100%. And that's where, within this, it allows us to create those opportunities. So they learn something, they come in, they join, a live session, and we've done a lot with some of our partners as well, where they have, you know, hybrid learning sessions. People are on site doing learning in a classroom, and they're streaming also through JUNO that experience to people that couldn't be there in person online. And they're creating opportunities to ask questions, connect with the teacher, dive into those situations. So again, learning isn't just courses. And we're going to get to courses, don't worry, we're going to dive into courses and credentialing, but I think this is so important that that learning aspect is all of these things combined. And the more that you can create these experiences, and sometimes it's even just setting up rooms for people to have discussions, right? And so within our platform, we have the ability to do this, live learning sessions, live breakout rooms where people can go and chat with each other. I do also want to talk about kind of the community side real quick, because this is part of that learning. When we do a lot of this, when sessions are done, we also have our community forum where you can have topics that are tied to the courses and the learning that people are doing, and they can come follow these. And as activity happens within these, they can continue that conversation. So these are just some samples, but let's say, hey, I'm following the Help Me Out. I did that course, and now afterwards I want to be a part of this chat community. I can join this and, you know, post questions here, continue the conversation here, continue the learning here. If I want to jump on and do a video chat with someone, I can do it right through our platform. I don't need to use an external partner, and I can do all that here. So again, Gabe, to your point, the learning experience continues beyond just taking a course. So I'm just looking at our chat and Q&A. Anything yet, Dana, that you want to make sure I hit on before I jump into credentialing and certifications?
Yeah, there's one when you were on that live, when you were on that live session, Peter, if you can just address Kelsey's question about being able to capture the archive, kind of what happens when you bring in and do a webinar or you do a live event?
Yeah, great question. So we capture everything. So what's great about our platform is you don't even have to remember to hit record. We just automatically record everything. If you don't want to use it later, great, you don't have to, but we capture it just in case. And you have all of those archives. And then from that, you can decide what you want to do with that as an organization. You can put it into your on-demand content library. You can put it out on YouTube, whatever you want to do with it. It's your content, you own it. But yeah, great question.
Yeah, there's another one that just came in from Robin about being able to post recorded sessions, provide quizzes, and grade them. So if that takes you right into courses, I'll feel good about the segue.
Yep, love it. So let me move my chat and Q&A things out of the way here and jump into learning. And there's two sides to this I want to talk about. One is, of course, the CEU and credentialing aspect. There's a couple ways we do this. And Gabe, you've been a huge part of us as we built this with your experience, of course, at ASAE. There's a lot of requirements and things when you're doing certifications, especially if you're in the medical world. But being able to create those opportunities. So we'll dive into certifications and what that looks like. But first, I just want to talk about creating a user journey. So there's a couple different ways that you can do that within our platform. One, you can create something where they have access to everything. So this is just a sample library where they can come in and there's a bunch of courses that they can take, and they can just take anything and everything, pick and choose. I've already completed most of these because this is a demo site. So over the last couple of years, I've done all of these. But let's say I want to dive into a specific course or, you know, a specific piece of content. Let's jump into this one. I've already completed it, but I can come in and see what I have to do in this course. It's 4 parts. I can dive in, you know, I start with a video lesson. And again, this is just one example of a piece of content. Hey, I'm part 1 of 4. I can see my progress. This is a video. Once I've completed that video, this is already lit up for me because I've done it. But if I hadn't watched the video yet, this would be grayed out and it wouldn't let me continue until I've done that, right? So typical LMS kind of stuff, that gate environment where we want to keep people moving through. And then you can do everything in here from quizzes to, you know, open-ended questions. I think this one has a journal aspect at the end. Let me look. So this one is more of a journal, like open-ended questions. So it's not a true, false, multiple choice. But if you wanted it to be more of a, hey, you have to get this correct. You have to get 70%. You have to answer these questions. We absolutely do that as well. So there's tons of different ways to do it. I do love this journal feature. I think it's fun because it allows people to actually interact instead of just, hey, I got a quiz right. Hey, share your thoughts, share your feelings, get stuff out, if you're trying to get them to interact. But then you also have all of this data. You have all of their answers. So you can go back and see what they said, what they liked, what they didn't like, right? But as they do these things within our system, you can tie all of this back to a credit and a certificate. So within our system, you simply just, if a course or a module has something assigned to it, say 1 CE credit or 5 CE credits, whatever it is, all of those credits are automatically tracked when they complete those or when they haven't completed it yet. So I don't have any in progress. I've already done all of these. So you can see all of my hours are claimed. But if I want to claim those, I can do that. And then you can put in here a custom certificate. So maybe it says Peter Hodgin completed ABC course for 1 credit. Great, awesome. Maybe there isn't a certificate, right? But this allows them to quickly see, hey, what have I done? What's in progress? What have I already actually said? Hey, I claimed this. I actually did it. We also then can push all of this information into your AMS or whatever system you use as well. So if you don't necessarily need it here and you just want it in their system next to their name in your other system that says, hey, Pete's completed 5 credits this year, we can absolutely push that data. But it's very quick and easy for us to capture what they've done, how they've done it. Now, take a step back. We know there's tons of requirements that go into that. So there may be learning pathways. What I showed you was just open-ended. Anyone can take a course. You can also create learning pathways where they only have access to certain courses until they've completed others. You can create different experiences for who the member is. So maybe they're let's use a medical group. Maybe they're a physician, within your association, and they have access to certain courses, and the nurses within your organization don't. I'm just making up an example, but the nurses have access to the nursing content, right? You can totally create different pathways and experiences for different people. And then Gabe, I know we're actually working on creating some of those other learning pathways as well that kind of give you some options as you're going through it to make different choices. Hey, if you choose this, it gives you different options or different results or different courses that you can take from that. So we're creating some other deeper learning pathways within that as well. That's coming out later this fall, which we're excited about. But that allows you to do that. The other thing that I want to tie this in, and let me just look real quick, Dana, any questions on that before I kind of...
You actually, Suzanne had a question about taxonomy and the different learners, which I think that you just addressed. And you also touched a little bit on the integrations and how we're pulling data in and data out and lots of integrations. So if you want to take a breather and a sip of water and have Gabe talk a little bit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of great questions in there. We're short on time, so I'm going to answer them kind of briefly, and happy to do a follow-up to do a more deep dive, because some of these are actually some pretty meaty questions, and we could have a whole conversation about them. Let's see here where we're at. I guess where to start. Integrate with CRM such as Salesforce. Absolutely, do that all the time in lots of different ways. Everything from pulling users in to pushing, even back like what Peter was just showing, rather than at that, claiming a certificate. We also have the ability to even push that information back. If there's another credit tracking system, we have an integration that we can leverage to push that back into other systems. Do that all the time. So that's easy, yes, but integration is always a conversation. So happy to have that one, but generally, yes. SCORM support, yes, we are supporting SCORM. We know everyone's got a big back catalog of SCORM content. As much as we all dislike it, there's a lot of stuff, and we don't want to lose that. And then XAPI, some like LTI, CMI5, all that stuff is on our roadmap that we are adding. Cara asked about breaking into parts, or does it have to be a full 90 minutes? Absolutely, you can break this. You can set those courses and lessons up in whatever format you want. So that can be, like I said, that's super open. We'll just leave it at that. Different types of credit. I think it's a great question. And Peter kind of touched on that a little bit. With everything that we're doing, we can actually set up CE and tag it so that, kind of like what Peter was talking about, like if there's nursing credit versus like what credit a physician would get on the same content, we can set up different accreditation on the same pieces of content. And then depending on who you are, you'll be awarded those different credit types. So a ton of flexibility there. I think that gets to that question. Let's see what we got. There's just a bunch. We're at 5 minutes. Let's see what else is in there last. And I'm gonna hand it back to Peter. Clients engage in B2B bundled sales. Yes, absolutely. We're totally aware that is, group sales is a core piece. And as we release our e-commerce module, that's going to be in that first release that we have, where there's a way to purchase multiple seats and then distribute those out. Peter, I'll give it back to you. I know we got a bunch of questions to come back to, but I think you might have a couple of things. I know we're getting close.
Yep, we're getting close. So I know we got 3 minutes, so I want to hit on this real quick because we are with ASAE. So I want to hit on something that we did with them that I think is really cool, which is also bringing in mentorship into the learning environment. And so you're not just learning on your own. And one of the cool things that we've done with ASAE is created this opportunity called Ready Me that allows you to grow and develop yourself as a leader. There's 7 modules that you go through. These are the 7, so you can come in and go check it out. There's a free resource that we can send out to you if you have questions about it. But this allows you to come in and not only take courses, so I can come in and take a course and go through this course and say, hey, I'm going to start this course. But when I'm done with each of these modules, there's mentors that ASAE has set up where I can come in and say, hey, here's all of the virtual mentors that we have that we want to connect you to. And so at the end of each of those sessions, you'll actually get the opportunity to go in and look at their calendar within our system, pick a time and get a 30-minute virtual mentor session with them. So again, taking learning to that next level of not just on your own, but also, hey, how do I do this with other people that are experienced, that know what they're doing, and being able to create those connection points. So I know we're at just a couple minutes. I want to hit any of these last questions.
Let me get a couple because I've been reading them and formulating answers. Yep, okay. So for Elizabeth asked about separate training portals. Absolutely. Part of the whole 365 concept that we have is multiple sites on top of a single platform. And those sites can be radically different in terms of the content that they show, who has access to them, and what they look like. So 100% yes, that's something we could do with a single kind of engagement with the client. Leah asked about if something's grayed out because users completed again. Yes, we also have that. If someone wants to go back and redo content. Now, if there was a quiz or something, that'll be locked down because they've taken that before and we're not going to just let them keep taking the quiz. But if you want to go and revisit content that you've already done, rewatch a session, all that is 100% available. Lisa asked about what's it look like as a user dashboard. Peter showed that a little bit. I think 2 key pieces there. One, what users see is highly personalized based on the recommended for you, the access level tags that they have, so that what a user sees when they log in, we're all going to see different things on that homepage. Additionally, kind of as a dashboard, learners do have a kind of a my enrollments. So what are the courses that I'm enrolled in? How am I progressing on those? So 100% that is there as well. And then let's see, Kathy asked about set their own preferences. Again, I just mentioned users can enroll in courses so that they have a list of things that are kind of in their to-do list. And then additionally, we just have the ability to like content. So I can go through and be like, well, I don't want to enroll in it, but I want to come back and then I can see those likes later on so that I'm able to find those things. And again, we can even present that on the homepage if that's how you want to do that, where you want the user to see that as part of the dashboard when they log in. I know we're out of time, so I'm going to stop there. So much more to talk about.
It always amazes
Reggie,
me.
you got to give us more time, man. We got so much stuff to talk about.
It always amazes me how much you guys squeeze into a minute here. I just remind the audience that you can continue to interact with JUNO in the Matchbox platform. You can drop off a business card, you can schedule a meeting, and you can continue to ask and get these questions answered. So feel free to do that. Gabe, Dana, Peter, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I'm sure people have found this very interesting and will continue that conversation. So folks, we'll see you at the next demo, okay?
Thank you all. Appreciate it, Reggie. Thanks, you.
Guys.
Everyone have a wonderful day.